Hi, I'm the Amazing Atheist. Well, I'm not the Amazing Atheist right now. I'm TJ. TJ does life. That's what this is about. But it's so natural to be in front of a camera and say the Amazing Atheist. It's hard to scale that back and just be like, no, self. Right. Anyway, so this is a question and answer video, and I'm not going to answer every question because it would take forever, and I'm not even going to answer them in order. I mean, I'm going to answer them in order, but I'm going to skip the ones I don't like. Okay. Do you watch pro wrestling? Okay, I used to. I don't really watch it anymore. I watched it when I was, a teenager, 14, 15, around those ages. I used to love The Undertaker, the whole mythology of the screen entrance, the death imagery. He was the Death Warrior, I guess. I don't know. It seems like that's kind of a tradition. The warrior kind of decks themselves out in the death motif to intimidate the opponent. Obviously, when you're watching professional wrestling, you're dealing with, decided outcomes. It's, when a match begins, they know who's going to win. It's like, you're going to win, or you're going to lose. We're going to do this basic back and forth, and it's all arranged. But, for the audience watching, it's kind of interesting. We use that variation of that, famous funeral music that I don't think I've ever actually heard at a real funeral. The dun 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 dun. Of course, the Undertaker kind of cranks it up and does it really loud and very metalish. And then there's all the purple hues and the lightning and very just great theatrics. And I love the warrior of death. Always thought it was weird he didn't incorporate more like skulls and shit, but maybe that would have just been too over the top. Then again, there's a lot of wrestling stuff that gets pretty over the top. So, let's see, TJ, what do you think happens to matter when it goes in a supermassive black hole? Well, I don't know. I would imagine it becomes part of the super condensed matter within the black hole. But why are you asking me, really? I mean, it's not. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about this. I mean, I know a lot for a layman, but there's literally millions of people who know way more about this than I do. So I don't know if my opinion is important. I don't even know if that's up for opinions at this point. I don't know if that's something that's established or if it's something that's still being speculated upon. But my understanding of a black hole is that it is, a lot of matter that's super condensed in a ultra high gravity environment. So new matter just becomes part of that. It gets incorporated, right? So hopefully that's right. If it's not, then I can always fall back on the excuse of my own ignorance, which I freely own up to. What is the purpose of art? Purpose of art? I don't know. The purpose of art is man, that's not. You guys don't pull many punches with these questions. It's all either stupid shit like, would you let your dog lick peanut butter off your dick if I gave you $1? Or, what is the meaning of art? Why is there art? What is its purpose? I don't know if there is a purpose to all art. I think every individual piece of art has its own little purpose that we can argue about. And that goes for contemporary popular art. It goes for old art. It goes for very esoteric art that very few people know about. I think that the purpose of art has to be to communicate something about the human condition, or usually it's the human condition. I guess it doesn't have to be, but it's usually to convey something about the human condition to someone else. If you look, and everyone has their own little interpretation, and there's a lot of debate about whether or not interpretation has to be uniform or whether it can be this wide range. If you listen to Ayn Rand's idea about art, it's not about everyone has their own interpretation. It's about you must have the same interpretation as the artist. They want you to feel what they feel. That's the whole purpose. And other artists have a lot more lenient. I don't know about maybe not lenient, but they have a lot wider view, and it's like, oh well, you can put yourself into it, and I think it just varies from piece to piece. A lot of people, they look at the Mona Lisa and then they're, wow, the beauty and something about the composition just really speaks to people. I look at it, I'm like, I don't see the big deal. I much prefer to look at something painted by Salvador Dali, or watch a film directed by Chris Nolan, or Akira Kurosawa, or Clint Eastwood, or something, or hear a piece of music performed by Marilyn Manson, or Ludwig von Beethoven. It doesn't. I mean, we all have our preferences, and I don't know. It's such a broad question, and it's hard to narrow in on this pinpoint purpose. It's like, what is the purpose of a penis? I mean, you can piss out of it, you can fuck with it, you can please yourself with it, you can play with it while you're watching TV. It has a lot of purposes. And, some people are going to have certain preferences about how they use it, and when they use it, etc. So art is like a penis. That's the gist, the gist of what I'm saying. How's your weight loss going? Just look at me. It's not going. How is Grendel? Grendel, my pug Grendel. Well, me and my girlfriend's pug Grendel. He was very ill. Massive medical bills. Luckily, did not need surgery, which we suspected he might need for a while there, but still huge medical expenditure. But definitely worth it. Basically, he was not eating for a few days, and he was extremely lethargic, and just very depressed. And we believed he had some sort of blockage or something, but apparently it passed naturally with time and a little bit of help from the vet and their anti-nausea medications and fluid drip, because he would have been dehydrated if not for their fluid drips. So, but thankfully he's recovered and he's back to his normal rambunctious self. Why you don't let your hair grow again? Well, I kind of am. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, my hair is pretty long. It's not down to here anymore, obviously. I don't know if it ever will be again, but yeah, I mean, I am growing it. It's longish now. I was actually going to cut it, but then Cody had this very, very gay objection. It's very strange that he would care about my hair length, but he's like, no, it looks so much better long. I'm like, oh, okay, settle down, that's fine, whatever. I will accommodate, sir. When did you have your growth spurt? I don't know. I'm 6'6", maybe a little taller, maybe a little shorter, but around 6'6", and I was always very tall. I don't know if I had a spurt at any point. I think I just was tall, and then I got taller, and then I got taller some more. I don't know. I don't know if there was like any one point where it was like, whoop, just sprouted up. What did you dream about? This is not stupid. If you don't remember, then what's the weirdest dream that you remember? The weirdest dream that I remember. The weirdest dream that I remember is, I think I've talked about this before, but I could talk about it again. I was in a trailer filled with walls made of barbed wire, and there were human fetuses enmeshed in the barbed wire. And they were the color of not Cocoa Puffs, but Peanut Butter Crunch. I always thought, when I eat Peanut Butter Crunch, I always think that the chewed up Peanut Butter Crunch looks like human fetus. It has, like, whenever you see pictures of fetuses, and I'm sure it's something to do with the way they light them, they always have this very orange tint. And It's the same color of orange as chewed up peanut butter crunch. So whenever I eat peanut butter crunch, I pretend I'm eating little fetus balls, and that makes me feel better about it for some reason. I know I'm sick, but anyway, they were that color of peanut butter crunch, and they smelled like peanut butter too. Anyway, but one of the walls of the trailer fell, and there was a mine car, a little rickety wooden mine car, and a little the track. And I hopped in, and for some reason I was naked all of a sudden. I was naked. I was wearing clothes, and I got in the mine car, and all of a sudden, naked, butt naked. Started traveling on the mine car, and then the track disappeared. I was just kind of floating in a ghost mine car, and there were some weird spectacles to behold. There were all these limbless animals. There was a camel, and it was limbless, and it was just kind of floating at the height that it would have been had its legs been there, but its legs were not there. And so there was that camel, and there was like an elephant and a rhino and all sorts of these exotic animals that just had no legs, but were at the height, but their torsos were at the height they would have been had they had the limbs necessary to stand. And they were not bleeding, and that was very vexing to me in the context of the dream. I don't know why. I think it was because their wounds were so clearly fresh, and yet they seemed so unperturbed and there was no blood. And then we passed Hitler and two of his subordinates, all in full Nazi regalia, and they were around a water cooler, like an office water cooler, and they were putting the water into those little annoying fucking cone-shaped cups that you cannot set down. I don't know why those are designed that way, but the cone-shaped cups, and they were all pouring the water, and they were just having little chat, typical office politics shit between Hitler and two of his men. I'm not going to say it was like Goebbels or anything because I don't know who it was. Just two generic high-ranking Nazis, and they're all just kind of chatting, and they're waving to me like, "Hey, TJ, how you doing? Riding the trackless mine car by the limbless animals that don't bleed, huh? Well, see you later." And then we reach the end. I reach the end, and the mine car tips over, and my body is cast in such a position where my naked ass is hanging out, and then the devil appears, and he has this big red phallus and with a black head, and he's going to ram it inside of me. I'm like, oh shit, this is bad. But then, the second his penis touched me, he disintegrated. And the rationale within my dream is that I was so evil that the devil himself couldn't fuck me. So that's probably the strangest dream I've had that I can remember at all. Anyway, moving on to other topics. Let's see. How much did you pay for Grendel? Have you ever wanted a Chihuahua? I like all dogs. I didn't pay for Grendel. My girlfriend did. She had him before she met me. I don't know, he was $1,100 or something along those lines, but she didn't pay at all. She just kind of paid the first two payments, and then, it's America. The Chihuahua, yeah, I like some Chihuahuas. Some of them are assholes. It just depends. Chihuahuas are very persnickety dogs. Some of them are, just these wonderful little companions. Others are these yippy, neurotic bastards who need constant attention. I like a dog that pampers me, not the other way around. But if a dog's cute enough, I'll pay. I'll put it up on a pedestal. If I like French Bulldog or something, I find that scrunched up face to be extraordinarily cute. Any brachycephalic dog is good. Bulldogs, French Bulldogs, Pugs, Bull Mastiffs, Boxers, anything that's kind of smushed. Let's see. A apparent new dog. Can you tell us more about your apparent new dog? Well, he's not that new. Yujiro, we've had him for several months now, maybe a year even. He is a German Shepherd Pit Bull mix, so he's got the cop dog and the criminal dog, and it's all kind of meshed into one perfect package. You'd imagine that a German Shepherd Pit Bull mix would be extremely ferocious and an insanely aggressive attack dog. He is a total pussy. He is afraid of everything. Like, if I held these keys and I pointed them at him and I shook them, he would run away and whine because he's so terrified of anything that you hold in a threatening manner towards him. He's extremely friendly towards strangers. I think that if someone broke into our house, he'd probably wag his tail and lick them. So, useless as a guard dog. Really big, really just broad dog. So he's named after Yujiro Hanma from the anime series Baki the Grappler, who is this ridiculous character who is just... he takes all of the extreme elements of the anime badass and just takes them to such a level that they lose any semblance of credibility. There is a scene in Baki the Grappler where an earthquake occurs, and he punches the ground, and the earthquake stops, and he says, "No interruptions." So yeah, no credibility whatsoever, but it seemed like a cool name. Let's see what else we got. In what situations do you see war as either necessary or the best available option? You know, when you're looking at matters of state, you're looking at these big national, global issues of huge socio-economic, political significance. What I try to do is I try to take them down to the individual level. So, when is war necessary? That's like asking, when is it necessary for you to take a hammer and kill your neighbor? It's the same answer. If he is in your house fucking with your shit, kill him! That's an invasion, right? Or, at least you demand that he leave, and if he doesn't, kill him! What else can you do? If he is, if he has a rocket launcher and he's, pointing at your house and threatening to blow your house up, kill him! So, in other words, war is necessary when you have been invaded or you are being threatened with imminent destruction, or threatened with some form of aggression, then, make war. If you have a sneaking suspicion that your neighbor might have some weapons somewhere, and you have really shoddy evidence of that, probably not a good time to make war against your neighbor. And if he's like beating his kids, that's a good time to call the police. Not a good time to go over there and hit him with a shovel. So yeah, just use that kind of common sense. Other than Subway and McDonald's, where else have you been kicked out of / banned from? I don't know why people take the titles to those banned from videos so literally. I mean, it's obvious that I've never really done the things in those videos. I mean, they're so hyperbolic, so completely exaggerated that I cannot conceive of the fact that people honestly believe these stories to be true, or that at least they think that I'm trying to convey them as if they're true. They're stories. I mean, some of them have, pretty much all of them have some basis in reality. The only one that actually is completely true was banned from Waffle House. That one is not exaggerated at all, but I wasn't banned, so the title is still an exaggeration. But yeah, it's a title that's meant to draw your attention and get you to click. It's not meant to be accurate. Will you be doing more sketches like Bricks in the near future? That's the plan. Not necessarily like Bricks, because Bricks is so designed to be massively incongruent and beyond any sort of rational deconstruction. It's just like, okay, random shit is happening, I'm just going to go with it. We hope to do some more cohesive stuff in the future. Things that have, a narrative thread that you can follow. But we do want to do more sketch-based comedy stuff because there's so many people doing it on YouTube, and I feel like none of them do it very well. I feel like it's, you got these people like Smosh and Fred and Niga Higa and Annoying Orange, and they all do these little cohesive narrative thread things, and they're just terrible. They're not funny at all. I don't find them funny. Maybe some of you do. I'm not insulting you if you do. But I don't care about it. I just think it just doesn't work for me, so I kind of want to do it just to show that I can do it better. Maybe I won't do it better immediately, but hopefully. How did you become an atheist? That's a kind of an awkward wording of that question, I think, but I get the gist of what you're saying. I think the better question is why, maybe, not how, because how is like, it's about the actual process, not the catalyst. And I think the catalyst is more important than the actual little, whatever shift goes on in your brain. I've been an atheist for as long as I can conceive. I don't think I've ever accepted the notion of God. I mean, it was told to me as a kid, God is real, and He's amazing, and He could do whatever you want, and you just gotta pray, and you believe in Him, and if you do, you go to heaven, and if you don't, you go to hell to burn and roast, and agony, demons gnawing on your fucking gonads, whatever. So I never bought it, though. I just never believed it. I knew it was something I was supposed to believe, and I tried very hard to believe it, but I just never did. It just never took. It just always seemed kind of dumb to me. I was a skeptical kid. I didn't believe in Santa for very long. I didn't believe in the Tooth Fairy. In fact, I set up a trap. I set a bunch of stuff against the door so that the only way my parents could come and leave the tooth under my pillow was to knock all this stuff over, thus making a big racket and me waking up. I slept through it, but it was still all knocked over because, of course, there's no way once you open the door and knock everything over for you to put it all back up against the door, unless you put it all back up against the door and then crawl and then go out through the window. So, it was all knocked over, so I knew that there was no Tooth Fairy. Of course, their excuse was that the Tooth Fairy had used the door. I'm like, bullshit, Tooth Fairy fucking doesn't need to use the door. Little tiny fairy. She could go through walls. She could fly through windows. I mean, we've all seen the fucking cartoons. We know what the Tooth Fairy is. Let's see. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Boring. Not going to answer that stupid shit for the 1,000th time. Let's skip a little bit above in the list, just to kind of give some other people who ask their questions later a chance. Do you think that human beings will ever conquer aging and death via the medical sciences? I don't know if you can completely conquer death, because it seems to me as though there has to be a point at which you end. I mean, everything is finite, including our universe. I mean, we know that we're heading for destruction. It's not soon, but it is inevitable. I don't know if you can have your consciousness extend into forever. I don't know if it's desirable, let alone conceivable. Well, maybe it's conceivable, but that doesn't mean it's possible. But as for aging, yeah, sure. I think we could probably figure out something for aging. I read an article about some promising research in that direction with rats and stem cell research and all that. It's possible, and who's to say we have to be confined to these organic bodies? We could always pull a Borg and do a kind of a half and half, or we could just transfer our consciousness into machine bodies, like positronic brain data from Star Trek, shit like that. So yeah, let's just skip a little more ahead here. What do you... Okay, I have no idea what that is, so I'm going to skip that one. How much do you think politics would really change if the presidential seat was empty for the next 2 years? Well, if the presidential seat's empty, then you remove the looming threat of the veto. I mean, all of a sudden, votes that are right now just symbolic, like, we're going to repeal this health care, or something like that, that's no longer a symbolic vote. That legitimately has some steam behind it, because there's no one in office who can be like, aha, we veto this initiative. So you remove the president, you give a lot more power to, Congress. And maybe that's not a bad thing. It would not probably be a huge impact on society, but it would definitely have an impact. I don't know if ordinary people would know the difference, because I mean, most people, they don't pay attention to politics until something happens. It's just in America, you have these people who they don't pay attention to the news, they don't know what's going on in the world, they don't know what's going on in their own country, they just know about their own life. And as soon as something happens that fucks with their life in any way, then they suddenly perk up and start looking around for someone to blame. And, who did this? Who did this? It was him! He's the president! He did it! You know, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. Who really knows? Do you believe IQ tests can at least give an idea of someone's mental capabilities? If yes, does it frighten or anger you that the average is 100 when people with 120 can be utter morons? What is your own IQ? I don't know my IQ. I've taken a bunch of bullshit, fake online IQ tests, and, you know, they've given me wildly disparate answers. But can an IQ gauge someone's intelligence within a ballpark figure? Well, you know, I'm not sure. I think that it can gauge certain aspects of your intelligence, but I mean, you know, what about the intelligence of, you know, the athlete who goes out onto the court and, you know, knows instinctively to flank left or to, you know, pass at this exact moment to keep it from falling into the enemy team's hands? What about the carpenter who, you know, can measure a 90-degree angle from 15 feet away using only his eye, or if you want something harder than a 90-degree angle, like 65-degree angle, whatever, you know? What about the, you know, hunter who knows, you know, where to stand so that the animals cannot smell him, or the people who, you know, my point is there's all these little specialized skills that require the brain to function in a very specific way. In other words, you can be a genius at a lot of things. I don't necessarily, like, you know, there's people that are, you know, great mechanics who can, you know, fix these very complex engines, and, you know, then there's these people who are, you know, theoretical physicists who can posit all of these incredible ideas about, you know, the entire universe. But, you know, you ask them about, you know, can you fix that engine? No, it's not within their skill set. So I don't know if the IQ can really measure the true range of human intelligence, because a lot of it, I think, is about intuition and guiding that intuition into the direction that's going to be optimal for you. So I'm not sure that I have much faith in them, is my point. When and why did you start posting on YouTube? It's like a lot of stories, I guess. You know, the story about the rock star is, you know, every rock star talks about the moment when they realized they had to get into music, and they're watching TV, and they see some shitty band, and they're like, I could do better than that. And then they do. They go out there, and they do their damn best to do better than that, and, you know, whether they do or not, they think they did. And that's the same for YouTube. I looked at the people who were doing atheist videos on YouTube, videos about atheism and politics, and I was like, I can do better than that. And then I did, or at least I tried to. The big names back then were Captain Awesome and Brett Keane. Brett Keane is, of course, relegated to, you know, absolute obscurity. Captain Awesome, we all know what happened with him, or if you don't know, whatever. Huge drama, ran away from YouTube with his tail tucked between his legs. But I'm still around, obviously, and I have a pretty respectable-sized audience. I don't really talk much about atheism anymore. Still very into politics, obviously. But, you know, the whole atheism thing, it was just a matter of getting tired of reaffirming the same thing over and over again. Just like, oh, yeah, God isn't real, and also, here's another reason why God isn't real, and by the way, did you guys know that God isn't real? And hey, check out this guy who says God is real. Well, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to discredit what he just said. I'm going to show you why he's mistaken about God not being real. And I just don't think it's extremely consequential, especially when there are these huge political events going on. We have this huge power struggle going on in America between all these little different political factions, and you have to. I feel like it's much more important to take a side in that and comment on that. Although I do think religion is a big part of politics, especially in America. But that's about the only time I'm interested in religion per se anymore. Because if you have someone who's using God as a justification for a particular policy, then obviously you have to speak out about that. But if you're just talking about religion as a self-contained thing, then I'm not very interested. I'm not really interested in the big theological question: is there a God or isn't there? No, there's not. That's all. I mean, there's no evidence to suggest it, and if there is, we can reassess. But for now, there's not. I mean, we've discredited every argument that's been brought forth, and until new arguments are brought forth, I see no reason to focus on it. Let's see. Fuck off, Cody. Why'd I do this? I meant to flip you off and I'd give you a thumbs up instead. Like, yeah, take the thumb, bitch.
Nah, it's because you love me. This man is a big teddy bear. He loves me. Loves me with every ounce of his tiny black heart.
Yeah. Whatever. Let's see. Gotta find another good question. Should have picked these in advance. Oh well. How would I'm just stepping out on a limb here and hoping this doesn't suck because it's kind of long. How would the judicial system function in your ideal society? You believe that laws should be abolished, but what should we do with people who murder or steal, and who can we trust to judge whether or not they have done what they're being accused of? Okay. I don't know. Here's the problem with this question to me. When you're talking about law, I think there's a very big emphasis on prohibition. And my problem with prohibition is that it doesn't work. And a lot of people understand that prohibition doesn't work. That's why most people, or not most people, but a lot of people are against the drug war. A lot of people are for the legalization of marijuana. A lot of people are they understand prohibition doesn't work. It didn't work with alcohol, and there being a law against murder has not stopped murder. There being a law against rape has not stopped rape. There being a law against theft has not stopped theft. Does it discourage? Sure, yeah, probably. But I think the emphasis is wrong when it's just on prohibition. There should be a lot more emphasis on the positive. It's not, don't murder. It's, don't be a murderer, basically. There's like a distinction there that I don't think society makes. It's not be a good person. It's don't be a bad person. And really, when you think about it, the big thing that stops people from killing and raping and pillaging and murdering and doing all this horrible stuff is empathy. I don't understand why we can't have an encouragement of empathy rather than just a fear of reprisal, a fear of punishment. That said, I don't think it's practical to have no punishment or no law. I just wish that society would shift its emphasis. I think that, you have to have something in place, some justice system, because, we can't count on everyone having empathy. There are sociopaths out there. They don't care about other people at all. And everyone has varying degrees of empathy. I'm not the most empathetic soul, but I'm not going to kill anybody because I don't want that on my conscience. I'm not going to rape. I'm not going to steal because I don't want that on my conscience. I know it would weigh down on me, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I could kill some people. Maybe, sometimes there's some idiots in front of me in line, and they're like, yeah! I'm just like, yeah! But, probably wouldn't really do it. But, the point is that, it's not so much about let's get rid of these laws. It's about let's change the emphasis here. Let's encourage good behavior rather than just discouraging bad behavior. And I think that works better, too. I think that you just have better results when you do that. 2 questions. What is your opinion on the philosophy of Satanism? No, I don't mean the Levian sect or the portrayed version where everyone wears black and worships the devil. I mean self-worshipping, individualistic, and not necessarily spiritual side. Well, I'm kind of confused because the Levian version is that. The Levian version of Satanism is self-worship. So I don't know if you are really grasping the term there. But, Satanism is a great philosophy for life when you're 15, maybe 14. 14, 15 years old, you want to be a Satanist. Cool! 16, you're kind of pushing it. 17, you're a fucking retard. That's just how it goes. And LeVay himself, I have respect for the man. I think he was great. I think that he pretty much started a religion as a parody of religion, and that's all he ever viewed it as. And if you read his essays, you kind of get that sort of thing. I mean, you read the Satanic Bible, it seems like it's kind of serious. But when you read his other writings, you realize how tongue-in-cheek it was. I mean, it's really just a matter of, like, let's dress up in silly costumes and, have rituals with naked women. It's all about that. And that's fine. I think that's fun. I mean, if you want to, wear devil horns and, smack a girl's ass and, Satan! That's fun. But to take it seriously, to walk around like, I'm a Satanist, and I believe the satanic principles and all that, that's, fuck off. You're just goofy. Number 2 is, I'm curious, what are some of your own inhibitions that you've never really let on to your subscribers? I'm well aware we don't really know you on a deep level. You only show us what you want as inhibitions. I don't know, that seems like kind of a strange wording. I don't know if you meant inhibitions. So I don't really know how to answer that. I don't think that was worded properly. Should the man work while the woman cooks, cleans, takes care of the kids, or should the woman work also? I don't understand this division of labor by gender shit. I mean, if a woman wants to stay home and cook and clean and do all that shit, and there is the financial ability for her to do that, sure. Also, if the man wants to stay home and cook and clean and take care of the kids, and the woman wants to go out and work, that's fine too. If that is a financial possibility for a family, then it should be up to the individuals involved. I don't see why we have to have this idea of like, okay, women, you're a woman, you're in the kitchen, you're a man, you're in the workplace, that's how it goes. I mean, this is such an outmoded idea, too. I mean, who really believes this anymore, aside from, like, a few ultra-conservative fringe nut jobs? I mean, it's just not really the way society functions at this point. I don't even know why you'd ask that. I mean, if this was like 1957, I could see you be like, what do you think on this, hot new issue of women in the workplace? It just seems like a strange question. Let's see. Let's find a new question here. I believe that a long time ago I saw a video where you talked about how you lost your virginity. Is there such a video? Because I can't find it. Help me out. I don't think I've ever talked about that. If I have, I was probably lying. How do you feel about video games being called art? Films get called art all the time, so what's fundamentally different about games? Well, I mean, the fundamental difference is obvious. I mean, I would imagine it's obvious. The ability to control events. The interactivity of it makes it different. So we have to reappraise. We have to reevaluate. Now, you ask me if, is the design of the character art? Yes, there's art. I mean, you're painting landscapes, you're creating new worlds. That's art. But is the actual experience of playing the game, is that you enjoying the arts? I don't know. I don't think so. If it is art, I don't think it's art in the same way that a movie is art. I feel like, if you're talking about a movie or a novel or anything story-based, then I feel like that is about telling a story, a narrative. And that is very contingent upon you passively accepting a certain course of events. And it's not about, you can only progress a little further if you can defeat the boss of the level, or you can defeat these, 12,000 alien ninja vampires or some shit. You gotta do the fucking right combo moves to make it progress. It's none of that. It's all about the story. The focus is the story. I mean, some games, they throw in the story. Other games, they let you change the story based on your actions. I don't know. I don't consider it art. I mean, if it is art, then it's only art when you're not interacting. Like, the story maybe is art, but then when you're actually playing, that's not art anymore. It's just very strange. I mean, if it is art, it's art in the same way that like a picture is art, like a drawing. It's not art in the same way that a film is art. Okay, I don't know. That answer will probably piss off a lot of gamers. I know this is always for some reason, it's a really contentious issue. Gamers are very fucking concerned about whether or not games are art. I don't know why they're concerned. I would just think they wouldn't give a shit, like it's something they enjoy, but they seem to really want it to be art. So, if you want it to be art, I guess it can be, but I don't really think of it that way myself. Have you ever gone? Oh. Have you ever gone as far as to try to use? Okay, that's a troll question. Just random series of words that don't have any sort of congruence with one another. Let's go another page. Oh, okay, there we go. Find a question. Question time. All right, I'm going to answer some questions on this page. Will you please make more videos where you destroy everyone's evidence of Christianity, please? No. I probably will, because, it's popular, but I'm not going to focus on that, because, like I said, there's no new arguments. You show me some new arguments. So, oh my god, I've never heard this argument before. This is a whole new thing to discredit. But I haven't. It's always the same shit. It's like, if you're walking down the beach and you see a watch and you think to yourself, oh man, this watch is so complex. It must have been created. Therefore, the universe is complex and it must have been created too. This is a watchmaker. And every painting had to have a painter. It's the same fucking argument over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's the same fucking thing, and I get tired of reaffirming the same shit over and over. Oh, yeah, it's still wrong. Yeah, it's wrong when you use a watch as an example. It's wrong when you use a painting as an example. It's wrong when you use a turkey dinner as an example. It's always fucking wrong. No matter what you're talking about, it's just stupid. It's fucking dumb. Okay, so, hey, TJ, has anyone really been far? Okay, it's the same fucking thing. God damn! Stop it with that! Not funny.
You fall for it every time.
Well, I don't fucking read. I can't sit here and read the whole question and then be like, okay, now I'll read the question aloud, because then it would take too long. I just have to go into things on faith that they're going to make sense. It's a leap of faith. Do you think the significance behind all of the problems here in America revolve around greed and power, in which people constantly want more money and control in order to pursue the highest level of the social hierarchy? Yeah, pretty much. I think that's right. I think that I think there's a problem in America where we view money as being something other than what it actually is, because money is power. It's a representation of power. Wealth is about power. That's all it's about. It's about the power to buy, the power to purchase, because everything is transaction. Everything. If you have more money, you can make people do things in exchange for it. You can make people do things in exchange for it. You can purchase anything you want. If you have enough money, you can live where you want. You can do what you want. You can drive what you want. You can have any sort of, if you get sick, you can have the best doctors. If you need someone killed, you can hire the best hitmen. It doesn't matter. You have that power because you have that money. People don't want to view money as power in America. People want to have this fluffy idea about power, like, oh, power is the heart, and courage and all that shit. It's not. It's money. And people need to start realizing that when they're taking your money, they're taking your power. They want power. They want to take that money and give it to the rich. The people who already have the most power. Everyone who has power wants more power. They want you to have the minimal amount of power for you to get by. They want you to have the power to eat enough food to keep yourself going, to run the machines that keep them powerful. That's all they want. And when I say they, I'm not talking about every single rich person. I'm talking about a very specific group of rich people. The very tippy-top 1%, and not even all of them are bad. There are plenty of people who are, charitable, and they want to reorganize society to make it more fair for everyone. But there is also a cabal of evil fucks who just want more power. They want more concentrated power in their hands, And that's all they want. If people ever make fun of you outside of the internet, what would you do? I don't know. I don't tend to take other people's criticism very seriously. Probably just because I'm really egotistical. I'd like to say it's because I have a thick skin, but it's probably just because I have very little opinion of most people who aren't me. Let's see, how long are we at now? About 45 minutes. Did anyone manage to leave a comment that gave you hope? Well, I didn't really read the comments on that video. I mean, I sometimes have time to read comments, I sometimes don't. In that particular video, I didn't have the ability to do it, and it was really more of a motivational thing anyway. I wasn't really looking for hope. I was just looking to relate my feelings to others and hope that they latched onto it and maybe went with it. Maybe it inspires them to do something different with their lives. Not necessarily something like I'm doing, but something, planting the seeds of a revolution 20 or 30 years from now. Hopefully, if one is still necessary, which I'm pretty sure it will be. What are you most insecure about yourself? I don't know. There's like a lot of obvious things that I could answer, like hairline, penis size, weight, things like that. I mean, those are all those little insecurities that definitely are there. But I'd say the biggest insecurity is probably just the feeling of that I'm not delivering what I'm saying well enough, that I'm not conveying my ideas, at the optimal level that I feel like they could be conveyed. It's why I strive to be able to speak my ideas as well as I can write them, because if I'm writing something down, I can convey it exactly how I want to. If I'm actually saying it, then it's a little bit harder. The problem, though, is if you write something, very few people will actually read it, because reading requires them to be somewhat participating. They have to participate a little bit, and not in the little fun, easy way that, I'm playing a game, I'm pressing buttons, it's cool. They actually have to be like, wow, I have to invest my attention into something. Whereas if I'm just speaking, they can just kind of passively sit there like a sponge absorbing my every word, and it's a little bit easier on them. So my biggest insecurity is that I'll never reach that level of being able to just summon the right words. I feel like I'm always going to have these stumbling blocks. I'm always going to be too full of ums and ahs and taking these little meandering, side stories and tangents that just don't go anywhere. Let's see what else we got. Have you seen Cody naked? No, not seen Cody naked. Get away. He once flashed his ass on Blog TV. I didn't look at his actual ass. I just looked at the monitor, which I saw his ass on. But it was really white, and I couldn't even make out the crack in the chaos.
It looked like a woman's ass, didn't it?
I don't know.
Come on, does I have a woman's ass. There's no hair on it. It's smooth. It's wonderful.
It just looked like a big white thing. But yeah, I saw that, but I'd never seen full-on naked web. Well, I guess I have, because he's naked in his book cover and shit. But you can't see everything, so that doesn't count.
You want to see my balls right now?
No, I do not, and I can't have him on this video at any rate. Okay. Do you support the Wisconsin protesters? Well, you'll find that out. He's editing that video right now. So, let's go here. Should the U.S. embargo against Cuba be abolished? Not only should it be abolished, it never should have been there in the first place. We have a lot of enemies in the world. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me that we're basically in a second Cold War with China, and yet they're our partners in the world. Yeah, we buy all kinds of shit from you, and you can buy up our debt. That's great. And yet, Cuba, they have those great cigars and shit, and we're just acting like, nope, don't want nothing to do with you because you're communists and you were our enemies during the Cold War with the Soviet Union, which ended fucking, 15, 20 years ago now. So it doesn't make sense. We're basically punishing them for an allegiance to a nation that no longer exists. What was your reasoning for moving in with Cody? I didn't move in with him. We all moved into a new place together for the purposes of shooting videos for YouTube and, building sort of a little empire. We want to do the comedy channel, Not Productive. We are not productive. YouTube.com/we are not productive. And that's something we've been kicking around for a while. We've only kind of just now even gotten started on it because we got so busy doing other stuff. And there's the documentary that we shot and is still being edited right now. So just a lot of stuff, a lot of projects. It's definitely a lot easier to work with Cody than it is to just go it alone because he obviously is far more talented in shooting and editing stuff than I am. And I like being in front of the camera. He likes being behind it. It's just a very good arrangement. And everyone gets along pretty well. It's kind of just this very neat little clique where, we got Scotty, and he's kind of like the arrogant, angry douchebag. And, he yells and, do this. And then Cody's kind of like, the chill, relaxed, kind of like, yeah. And I'm kind of like just this, I don't know what I would be. I probably can't do an honest assessment. But it all works together. It all clicks. It's like a little, like this. Like two hands doing like this. Not like that. No, that's different.
3 ways.
Yeah. What do you think has more weight on a person when being judged by their peers, religious affiliation or political views? For example, would Christian conservatives have the same amount of disdain for an atheist conservative as they would for an atheist liberal? Well, no, of course not. How the world works, Lee Doran is an atheist conservative, and he's certainly very well liked among conservatives. I mean, they don't like his atheist views, but they're not exactly, banging down his door like, fuck you, Lee, change your religious views now. And then there's, I don't think the religion question's not as important. I mean, if someone agrees with me on every political thing, like my uncle, for instance, he and I agree on probably about 70% of our politics are very similar, yet he believes in God, kinda, and I don't really, so, but we get along, swimmingly, because it's not the big issue. It's not like, well, you agree with me on pretty much everything that has to do with the real world, but we have a disagreement about what happens after you die, so we just can't get along. That's just stupid. I think that politics is a much bigger factor than religion when it comes to people getting along. For those of us who have any politics. A lot of people in America proudly have no politics. Let's see. I'll answer a few more. Try to get to an hour, and then we'll quit. TJ, do you agree with Paul's comment that America should not have taken so long to abolish black discrimination, and that it is actually another detriment to this country? For all you racists out there, let me ask you this. Why do I choose to hate a person I see every day, but choose to love a God that I've never met? Okay, I'm just going to ignore the second part of that. It's just like a little, I'm clever. I'm sure you probably read that on Tumblr or something. But the thing about Paul, I don't know. Paul's analogy was basically America should not be proud of its little tiny leaps forward, or maybe not even leaps, but its tiny steps forward towards progress because they're so late. He said, it's like congratulating someone for no longer pissing their pants. Well, I would congratulate someone who's no longer pissing their pants. If you knew someone who was pissing their pants constantly and they finally learned how to use the toilet, would you not say, good job, Bruno? I would. And so I congratulate America. Maybe he's right that these accomplishments are not these big, monumentous things. They're like, yes! Wow! Black rights, women's rights, it's all good. But, I certainly want to encourage that. I don't want to be like, well, so what? You got fucking black rights now. I definitely want to be like, yes, very good. Keep moving in that direction. Encourage progress. Don't fucking poo-poo that shit. Let's see. New question. I know you're a skeptic on ghosts, but how do you explain paranormal happening? Not only talking about the stuff you see on TV, which could arguably be false, but people of moderate intellect claiming to have something paranormal happen to them, like seeing ghostly figures and such. Well, are we going? Well, let me just ask you this. This is my question back, and I know you're not here to answer it, so it's okay because it's rhetorical anyway. What is more likely? Someone. There's no ghost, and someone saw something, thought they saw something that they really didn't, or everything we understand about the universe and how the human mind, body, and physics works is wrong. It's all wrong because some people have had this phenomena that they think contradicts all that. It's like saying, how can you say that human beings cannot fly when I have a cousin who saw a man fly? Just saw him flap his arms and soar through the sky. Okay, well, you sure your cousin wasn't lying? Are you sure your cousin wasn't delusional? Are you sure that this wasn't an optical illusion? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I don't think there's any evidence of ghosts out there that is so solid and airtight that it just negates everything we understand about science. I'm just not willing to put a couple of instances of more than a couple, but a few instances of eyewitness testimony over the hard science. Where is the empirical evidence? Where is the hard evidence? Not just we put a tape recorder in a room, and if you listen really closely, it sounds like a spooky man saying, "Get out." Where is the real fucking evidence? Where is the ghost who appears, on national television and says, "I am a ghost and I am real. Fear me now, America." I don't know. I don't see the evidence as being all that strong. Almost done here. What else we got? Did you get lots of pussy in high school and or college? No, I didn't go to college, first of all, and I wasn't in high school very long. Did I got a lot of pussy in my teenage years? I don't know. What's average? Is it what's a lot? It kind of depends on the definitions. But I would say, I got some, but it wasn't an impressive amount. It wasn't like this great abundance of sex that I had. How did you come up with calling Cody Code Red? I don't know why this is so mystifying to people. I don't know why it's difficult to understand how I came by this nickname, because his name is Code E. So, Code, I started saying, we should start, I was sitting there when we were at some restaurant, I was like, we should start calling you the Code. And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh no, we should call you Code Red. That'd be great. And he's like, no, I hate that. And then, so ever since then, I've been trying to make it stick. It hasn't quite stuck yet, but it will. It will.
No, it won't.
About you, TJ, there is a great number of people that know something is wrong, but they do not understand the source of that wrongness because they are in the box of indoctrination. Peter Joseph. You are locked into a box. You see that box, and you look at it, you see the leaks and the cracks, you try to fix them, but never do you think that something is wrong with the box itself. Paraphrase from Peter Joseph. Okay, well, thank you for that useless fucking non-question. You've clearly missed the point of this exercise. As you probably know, Opie and Anthe responded to your video regarding them as Bill Maher. That was terribly worded, but I know what you're saying. They did kind of respond. They didn't respond by name. They didn't say, this faggot, the amazing atheist, you'll never believe what he said. So that kind of pissed me off, because, if you're going to fucking respond to me, give me some fucking traffic, I need it. Get people coming to see me, And then someone from the show did come to invite me and say, oh, you got to come to the show and we'll argue with you on the air. And I'll be like, okay, that's really cool. All you guys got to do is just pay for me to come to New York and I'll do it. And no response to that. So basically, oh yeah, you can come on our show if you're willing to fucking do it on your own dime. I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking pay money to travel to be on fucking Opie and Anthony and argue with fucking retards. Yeah, so I didn't bother with that shit. We're almost done. I'm going to do one more question. I'm just going to select it at random. If it's just a retarded 4chan-esque style go nowhere trick, then, so be it. Let's just find one here. I'm not going to do that one. Okay, I'm just going to... Okay. Which philosopher can you personally... that's boring. I'm not doing that either. Okay. Do you really like sucking wiener, and what's the real reason you look like you do a bunch of drugs? Okay, I can handle that one. I mean, it's insulting, but it has 7 thumbs up, so apparently a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm dying to know the answer to that too. Do you really like sucking wiener? I don't know. I mean, have I said I like sucking wiener, and then you guys are like, does he really? Or is it like, do you really like sucking wiener, like secretly, in the shadows? I don't know. I've not really sucked enough wiener in my lifetime to, like, gauge my level of enjoyment of that activity. It's not been, like, a smorgasbord of endless wieners that I'm just like, okay, now this one, and now this one, and now this one. So, can't really judge, or can't really answer that question. Not enough data, and then the second part of the question is, why do I look like I do a bunch of drugs? I don't know. What drugs do I look like I do? I don't really look like I do meth because I'm too fucking fat. I guess I kind of look like an alcoholic, maybe. Do I look kind of like an alcoholic? I don't sweat enough. I'm a big fat guy, but I don't sweat a lot. It seems like if I drank a lot of booze, I would sweat more. What drug specifically do I look like I'm on? That's my question. Well, I guess you can answer another one, because that didn't really go much of anywhere. Let's see what the most recent question is. Just refresh here. Why are you such a fat piece of shit? That's a good question. I don't know. I'm fat because I eat too much, and I don't exercise enough. Why am I a piece of shit? I don't know. If I was like, am I really a piece of shit? Because I'm like 300 something pounds. I would imagine that I'd be like the whole shit. I'm not like a piece of. I am the shit. Which is a good thing, right? You say that guy's the shit. You're complimenting him. I don't understand that though. Why is it complimentary to be the shit, but it's not complimentary to be a piece of shit? I would think if a little of something is bad, then all of it would be bad, but apparently not. Okay, one more. One single last question, and here we go. No, let's just scroll down. There, this one, whatever it lands on. Okay. Do you think humanity will ever colonize other planets? I'm not going to read the rest because it's obvious what this is going to be. Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, well, if we survive, we don't kill each other, we don't fucking blow the fucking world up, then yeah, we'll probably colonize other planets, and we should, because that's the tendency of life. Life expands. Like my friend Howard Bloom says, you got the fucking bacteria in the puddle. The bacteria cannot stay in the puddle. It cannot be like, well, this puddle's fucking nice and we're adapted to it. No, it leaves the puddle, it expands in the ocean. When the ocean is full, it expands into the land and forms little tiny plants and, algae and shit. And then the algae becomes, plants that have roots, and the plants that have roots become little bugs and shit. And I don't know the rest, but, it's all a very steady progression of ever expanding into new territories. And then, when you've taken up through the lands, you take over the sky. We've taken over everything on this planet, so let's go to fucking space. Or let's start living underwater. But, I don't like that as much. Because, that's right here. It's like we're still stuck on this little ball of shit. Anyway, those are my answers, and, whatever.